PM49.
Imagine a desert highway, bone dry one moment, then a raging river the next. That's exactly what happened this week in northern Nevada. In just under 2 hours, over 3 inches of rain pounded the Sierra Nevada foothills, turning Interstate 80 into a churning, muddy torrent. Cars were stranded, their headlights barely visible under the floodwaters as debris swept across the road. In Lyon County, entire neighborhoods vanished under waist-high water that surged in minutes. Schools were swamped, power was knocked out for thousands, and families climbed onto rooftops as the flood swallowed their streets. Meanwhile, Arizona faced its own disaster. A massive haboob rolled through Phoenix, Mesa, and Tempe, dropping visibility to zero, followed by flash floods that submerged highways under 2 feet of water and forced Sky Harbor Airport to shut down. Desert cities were drowning, power grids were failing, and communities were brought to their knees. This is the story of the 2025 Nevada-Arizona flood disaster, a stark reminder of what happens when the desert sky unleashes its fury. Alright, everyone, let me paint a picture of the devastation we're talking about. It started as a gloomy afternoon in the Sierra Nevada foothills. Clouds gathered, the sky turned dark, and by 3 p.m., what looked like a typical summer shower exploded into a rare, overwhelming deluge. In less than 2 hours, more than 3 inches of rain slammed northern Nevada, far more than the parched desert ground could handle. By late afternoon, streets in Reno and Sparks were flowing like rivers. Interstate 80 near Derby Dam, a major lifeline in the state, disappeared under rushing brown water. Drivers hit their brakes, watching in disbelief as floodwaters erased lane lines and guardrails.
All right, guys, just to give you an understanding of the devastation we're dealing with here.
Some climbed onto their car roofs, signaling for help as debris battered their vehicles. In Sparks, hail hammered rooftops and shattered windshields, driven by winds nearing 40 miles an hour.
Grace?
Thunder roared through the mountains, while power lines sparked and transformers failed. What began as a storm spiraled into chaos, shutting down one of Nevada's busiest highways and leaving thousands stunned by how quickly the water took over. As the storm swept eastward, it left a trail of destruction across Lyon County, hitting smaller communities hardest. In places like Dayton, Stagecoach, and Silver Springs, people watched helplessly as water surged through drainage systems and flooded their neighborhoods in minutes. What started as wet streets turned into a powerful rush of water, strong enough to sweep cars away and submerge entire intersections. Schools took a heavy hit too. At Silver Springs Elementary, desks drifted through classrooms, textbooks were ruined, and walls buckled under the flood's force. Over at Dayton High School, the gym floor warped and split as water poured in from a leaking roof, leaving the town without a key community hub. By night, over 4,000 homes had lost power. Families relied on candles and flashlights, waiting in the dark as utility workers fought through floodwaters and fallen power lines. One resident put it plainly, "My street looks like a lake now." Major roads like US 50 were completely blocked, covered in over a foot of water carrying mud, branches, and debris. Drivers caught in rush hour were stuck in gridlock, unable to find a way home as the storm closed off every route. What had been an ordinary day in Lyon County turned into a night of worry, uncertainty, and isolation. As floodwaters surged through streets and communities, the priority turned from protecting property to saving lives. In Lyon County, the local fairgrounds were swiftly transformed into an emergency shelter. Families arrived, drenched and rattled, clutching whatever they could grab: stuffed garbage bags, backpacks, anything they could carry. Volunteers from nearby towns poured in, bringing essentials like bottled water, warm blankets, and baby supplies, ready to support those who lost everything in a matter of hours. Outside, sandbag stations became critical hubs. Neighbors stood side by side, piling bags high in a frantic effort to shield homes from the rising water. For many, it was a losing battle. The current was just too powerful. Authorities issued a clear warning: stay out of floodwaters. Just a foot of moving water can sweep a car away. But despite the alerts, countless vehicles were left stranded on highways and side roads, buried in mud and debris. Utility workers fought through the night, racing to bring power back to over 4,000 darkened homes. Parents used flashlights to comfort scared kids, while volunteers guided elderly residents to safety at evacuation centers. One rescuer summed it up: "The storm outran us. We were up against the water itself." Yet, even in the chaos, bravery stood out. Neighbors carried strangers to safety, wading through torrents together. Across the country, communities faced nature's fury with incredible courage. Volunteers stepped up, carrying elderly residents to safety on their backs as floodwaters surged. As the storms grew fiercer, people banded together, proving that unity was their greatest strength. I'm standing here in Leander, near Round Mountain, where an entire neighborhood has been washed away. It's a heartbreaking sight. By 1 p.m., the chaos was in full swing. While Nevada battled relentless downpours, Arizona faced its own crisis. A massive dust storm, known as a haboob, swept through the desert, engulfing Phoenix, Mesa, and Tempe in a thick cloud of dust. Drivers on the highways were forced to stop as visibility vanished. In moments, daylight turned to darkness. But the dust was just the start. Thunderstorms followed, unleashing torrents of rain across central Arizona. Roads became rivers, with water rising to 2 feet, stranding countless vehicles. Emergency teams worked tirelessly, pulling people from cars as debris swirled in the rushing currents. At Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, the storm brought everything to a standstill. Runways were submerged, flights were grounded, and passengers could only watch as the chaos unfolded outside. By nightfall, over 56,000 homes in Arizona were without power. Winds and rain tore down power lines, leaving transformers sparking in the streets. Families stayed strong, finding shelter in their homes, while cooling centers opened to protect those most at risk from the heat and outages. The desert, known for its scorching sun, had become a battleground of rain, wind, and dust. Here's a glimpse of the destruction we're seeing. Communities hit hard, but standing resilient in the face of it all. By dusk, the storms had taken a heavy toll, not just on homes and businesses, but on lives. In Nevada and Arizona, families found themselves trapped on rooftops as floodwaters surged. Drivers abandoned their cars, and parents held their kids tightly as water swept through their streets. Emergency lines were flooded with calls, people stuck in vehicles or cut off in their homes by rising waters. In northern Nevada, rescue teams used rafts and heavy-duty trucks to navigate submerged neighborhoods, bringing elderly residents and children to safety. In Arizona, first responders waded through waist-deep water to save motorists stranded on Interstate 10 and Highway 60. One rescuer shared, "Everywhere we looked, someone needed help." The crisis prompted Nevada Governor Sarah Thompson to declare a state of emergency, unlocking federal aid and activating the National Guard. Teams with high-water vehicles and helicopters fanned out to evacuate stranded residents and deliver supplies to cut-off communities. From Reno to Phoenix, shelters filled with families wrapped in blankets, facing uncertain futures. Volunteers passed out warm food and water, but anxiety hung in the air. Many had fled their homes with nothing but what they were wearing. In a late-night address, Governor Thompson spoke to the public. This is one of the most devastating storms we've seen in years. Nevada and Arizona will recover, but only if we unite. Her words carried strength and urgency, a reminder that this wasn't just a storm, it was a call to action. In 2025, a massive storm hit Nevada and Arizona, turning deserts into disaster zones. Roads became rushing rivers, schools flooded, power lines went down, and families had to escape in the dark. This wasn't just a random event, it was a wake-up call. If places known for scorching heat and dry landscapes can be overwhelmed by one storm, what's in store for America's coastal cities like Miami, Houston, San Diego, or Boston? No city is safe when nature unleashes its full force. But even in the chaos, hope stood strong. Neighbors helped each other through rising waters. Volunteers brought aid to those in need. Heroes like first responders put their lives on the line to save others. These acts show that while storms can destroy, they can't break the human spirit. If the story matters to you, give this video a thumbs up, share it, and hit subscribe for more updates on extreme weather events. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If a storm like this hit your city tomorrow, would it hold up, or would it crumble like parts of Nevada did? Stay vigilant, stay ready.